Ever get sucked into a story? So engrossed, you just can't stop listening. You know what I mean? Like when you lose track of time, the world melts away,
Mm.
and you're completely hooked on what you're hearing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we all have those moments.
It's the power of a great story, right? And in the world of podcasts, there's no shortage of captivating narratives.
True crime especially has this incredible ability to draw you in.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. The world of investigative podcasts and the impact they can have.
Sounds intriguing.
We're going to be taking a close look at Up and Vanished, created by Payne Lindsay.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
It's become pretty popular.
Yeah.
And for good reason, Lindsay has this way of bringing you along on his investigative journey.
You feel like you're right there with him.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're part of the team, trying to crack the case.
I think that's a big part of the appeal of these shows. It's that immersive experience. You're not just passively listening, you're actively engaged.
It's like you're an armchair detective.
Exactly.
And Lindsay didn't start out as a podcasting star. Yeah. His background is actually in music and filmmaking.
Interesting. So how do you make the jump to true crime?
He was inspired by shows like Serial and The Jinx back in 2016. He saw the potential of podcasting as a way to tell these complex stories in a really engaging way.
Makes sense. Podcasting has that intimate quality. It's like someone's telling you a story right in your ear.
And his first big case became season 1 of Up and Vanished, was the disappearance of Tara Grinstead in Ocilla, Georgia.
I vaguely remember hearing about that case. It went cold, right?
Yeah, back in 2005. And Lindsay really dug deep, determined to uncover the truth.
And being an outsider, a podcaster with no official authority must have presented its own set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely. He faced a lot of skepticism from local law enforcement,
I can imagine they probably weren't too thrilled about a podcaster coming in and stirring things up,
especially in a small town like Ocilla.
where everyone knows everyone.
Exactly. And police departments often face resource constraints, dealing with limited staffing and funding.
So reopening a cold case can put a strain on their resources.
But Lindsay persisted. And his investigation actually led to some breakthroughs.
Really? Like what?
Well, he uncovered new information that had been overlooked. And his work spurred the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to take action.
That's impressive.
It ultimately led to 2 arrests in the Tara Grinstead case.
Wow. So even though the case is still officially unsolved,
Right.
Lindsay's podcast played a role in bringing it back into the spotlight.
And potentially bringing some measure of justice.
It's a powerful example of how podcasts can make a difference in these cold cases where traditional investigations have stalled.
Absolutely. And in later seasons of Up and Vanished, Lindsay shifted his focus to the missing and murdered Indigenous women crisis.
The MMIW crisis, it's a tragic and often overlooked issue.
It is. And Lindsay made a conscious decision to use his platform to shine a light on these cases.
The cases that often don't get the attention they deserve.
Exactly. He specifically chose cases that were less likely to receive widespread media coverage.
It's crucial to raise awareness about this crisis
Right.
and to give a voice to the victims and their families.
And to understand the systemic issues that contribute to these high rates of violence against Indigenous women.
It's about more than just solving individual cases. It's about addressing the root causes of this epidemic.
Season 4 of Up and Vanished takes us to Nome, Alaska, where Lindsay investigates the disappearances of Florence Okpaluk and Joseph Barras.
Nome, Alaska. That's quite a remote location.
It is a small, tight-knit community on the edge of the Bering Sea.
I imagine that presents its own unique set of challenges for an investigation.
You're right. Rumors spread quickly, loyalties run deep, and people can be hesitant to talk to outsiders.
Especially about sensitive subjects like disappearances.
And what's unique about this season is that Lindsay was actually approached by both families, asking him to investigate their loved ones' cases.
Wow, so he had a personal connection to these cases right from the start.
Exactly. And that personal connection, I think, really comes through in the podcast. You can feel his empathy for these families.
It makes the story even more compelling.
It does. One of the most captivating aspects of Season 4 is Lindsay's decision to catfish a potential suspect in Florence Okpaluk's case.
Catfishing a suspect. Now, that's a bold move.
It was, and it definitely sparked a lot of debate about the ethics of using such tactics.
Especially by someone who's not law enforcement.
Right. But Lindsay felt it was necessary to get to the truth.
Did he succeed?
Well, he and his friend Cooper came up with this elaborate backstory.
Like undercover work.
Yeah. They even dressed up in winter gear to avoid being recognized.
So they could meet this suspect without raising suspicion.
They met him at a bar, and during their conversation, The suspect unwittingly revealed incriminating details about Florence's disappearance.
Wow. So he basically confessed without realizing he was being recorded.
It was a risky move, but it paid off.
It's a reminder that sometimes you have to think outside the box to get to the truth.
And in Joseph Burris's case, Lindsay's team faced a different kind of investigative puzzle.
How so?
They encountered conflicting accounts and inconsistencies in the stories told by people close to Joseph.
So it became a matter of sifting through those inconsistencies.
Exactly. Trying to figure out who was telling the truth
Yeah.
and who might be hiding something.
It sounds like a real challenge.
It was. It required meticulous attention to detail, comparing past statements with current accounts.
Looking for any discrepancies that might point to a cover-up.
And the emotional toll on the families involved can't be overstated.
They're desperate for answers, for closure. And the constant back and forth, the shifting narratives, only adds to their pain.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that these investigations aren't just abstract puzzles. They involve real people, real lives.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
And then there's the robot woman.
The robot woman, what's that?
This anonymous source started feeding Lindsay information about both cases.
Through voice-altering software to disguise her identity.
Exactly.
That sounds like something out of a spy movie.
It does. And it raises all sorts of questions about the reliability of information in the digital age.
How do you know who to trust when anyone can hide behind a screen?
It's a challenge. And it's something that Lindsay had to grapple with throughout his investigation.
I'm sure he had to be extra careful about verifying the information he received.
Absolutely. He couldn't just take everything at face value. He had to corroborate the robot woman's claims with other evidence.
It's fascinating how technology is changing the landscape of investigations.
It is. And it makes you wonder what the future holds for podcasting and citizen investigations.
The possibilities are endless.
I think we're just scratching the surface.
I agree.
And the fact that someone was monitoring Lindsay's travel plans
And leaked information about his trip to Nome.
raises some serious concerns about the risks involved in these kinds of investigations.
Someone clearly didn't want him poking around.
It's a chilling reminder that the truth can be dangerous.
And that those in power sometimes go to great lengths to protect their secrets.
Lindsay's work on Up and Vanished shows us how podcasts can be a disruptive force.
They can challenge the status quo
Right.
and hold those in power accountable.
And they can give a voice to those who have been silenced.
It's empowering for listeners to feel like they're part of the investigative process.
Like they can make a difference.
And that's what makes this genre so compelling.
It's not just about entertainment. It's about truth, justice, and the power of storytelling to change the world.
It's about shining a light on the dark corners and bringing the hidden to the surface.
And that's what we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the world of Up and Vanished.
I can't wait to hear more. Yeah, it really does make you think about the risks Lindsay was taking.
Right, especially when you consider the Alaska Airlines threat.
Oh, yeah. That was unsettling. Someone was clearly trying to intimidate him.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the story. But even with those risks, Lindsay's work on Up and Vanished really highlights the potential of podcasts as a tool for investigation.
I think it's safe to say that he's pushing the boundaries of the genre.
He's not just rehashing old cases, he's actively digging for the truth and using this platform to reach a wide audience.
And it seems to be working. People are clearly drawn to these stories. I mean, why do you think that is?
I think it's a combination of factors. We're naturally curious about the unknown, and we're drawn to stories about justice and injustice.
There's something about true crime that just captures our imagination.
And Lindsay does a great job of humanizing the victims. He doesn't just present the facts of the case. He brings the stories to life by sharing the voices of those affected.
It makes the listening experience much more immersive and emotionally engaging.
It's not just about solving a puzzle. It's about understanding the human impact of these crimes.
And I think that's what sets Up and Vanished apart from other true crime podcasts. It's not just about the mystery, it's about the people.
Right. And Lindsay's willingness to share his methods, the successes and the setbacks, makes the investigation feel more authentic.
Like we're right there with him, every step of the way.
Yeah, we see the dead ends, the breakthroughs, the moments of frustration.
It's not always glamorous work.
Definitely not. But it's important work. And Lindsay's transparency, I think, is a big part of his appeal.
It builds trust with the listeners.
He's not afraid to admit when he doesn't know something. And he actively engages with the online community, seeking tips and feedback.
It's a collaborative effort in a way.
It is.
Yeah.
He recognizes that he doesn't have all the answers. and that sometimes the most valuable insights come from unexpected sources.
So he's tapping into the collective wisdom of his listeners.
Exactly. And the fact that he was willing to catfish Oregon John.
That was a bold move. I'm still not sure how I feel about it ethically.
It definitely sparked a lot of debate,
On the one hand, I can see how it could be justified in certain circumstances.
especially in a case where traditional investigative methods have failed.
But on the other hand, there's always the risk of crossing a line.
And it raises questions about the limits of citizen investigations.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
But in Joseph Barres's case, the challenge wasn't so much about uncovering new evidence, but about making sense of the conflicting accounts.
Those shifting narratives can be so frustrating.
They can. And they can make it incredibly difficult to determine what really happened.
So Lindsay and his team had to really dig deep.
They had to meticulously compare past statements with current accounts, looking for any inconsistencies that might point to a cover-up,
And I'm sure the families were on edge the entire time.
anxiously waiting for any new information that might lead them to the truth about their loved ones.
I can only imagine what they were going through.
And then there's the mystery of the robot woman.
That's right, the anonymous source who contacted Lindsay through voice-altering software.
It's a fascinating example of how technology could be used in investigations.
And how it can create new challenges.
How do you verify the credibility of an anonymous source who's using technology to mask their identity?
It's a question that investigators are increasingly grappling with.
And it highlights the need for a new set of skills and tools in the digital age.
It's not enough to just be a good detective anymore.
You have to be tech savvy too.
And media savvy.
Lindsay's story shows us that the lines between traditional media and investigative journalism are blurring.
Podcasts like Up and Vanished are paving the way for a new kind of storytelling.
One that's both informative and engaging,
And that has the potential to make a real difference in the world.
by shining a light on the truth
Yeah.
and holding those in power accountable.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see someone like Lindsay using his platform to make a difference.
He's not just entertaining people. He's actually trying to make the world a better place.
It gives you hope that even in the darkest of circumstances, truth and justice can prevail.
And that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, right? The belief that even when things seem hopeless, there's always a chance that the truth will be revealed.
It's like a primal need we have to understand the world around us, to make sense of the chaos.
And true crime stories offer a glimpse into that darkness. But they also offer a glimmer of hope.
A reminder that even in the face of tragedy, the human spirit can endure.
And that's what I find so compelling about Up and Vanished. It's not just about the mystery. It's about the resilience of the human spirit.
The families of the victims, the investigators, everyone involved in these cases, they all demonstrate incredible strength and determination.
Lindsay's work is a testament to that.
He's giving a voice to those who've been silenced, and he's empowering others to seek justice.
He's showing us that we don't have to be passive observers. We can all play a role in making the world a safer and more just place.
And that's a powerful message.
It is. And it's a message that resonates deeply with listeners.
Especially in today's world, where it often feels like we're bombarded with negativity and injustice.
Up and Vanished offers a counterpoint to that. It shows us that there are still people out there fighting the good fight.
People who are willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult.
People like Payne Lindsay.
Exactly. And his work is a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference.
Whether it's through supporting organizations that advocate for victims' rights, or simply by being more aware of the injustices happening in our communities.
We can all contribute to creating a more just and equitable world.
So if you're looking for a true crime podcast, that's more than just entertainment. That will challenge you, inspire you, and leave you with a sense of hope. I highly recommend Up and Vanished.
Season 4, In the Midnight Sun, is a particularly powerful example of Lindsay's work.
It's a story of loss and heartbreak, but it's also a story of resilience and the unwavering pursuit of justice.
And it's a reminder that even in the most remote corners of the world, the truth can be found.
If we're willing to listen.